All right. Well, thank you guys for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. We had a great time. We had a really great time at down in Panama City in Florida. And for us, it's kind of a tradition that when we go on a mission trip, we come back to our churches and tell them about it. You know, because you guys supported us so much, and you need to see what God was doing through our students and down there at our mission field. So that's what tonight's all about. Tonight is going to be, every one of our participants that are here tonight are going to tell you a little bit about it. You know, some of the things, some stories about what happened, who people we met, work we did. You'll see pictures up there. They may tell you about some of the pictures. If you see a picture, it's like, hey, you know, what was that? You know, feel free to ask questions. But I guess we nothing else to do except for to get into it. So these guys love it. The students love to have people staring at them, and they get to talk about it. So our first ones, and let me tell you this, for you guys that are unfamiliar with World Changers, when we get there, they divide us into crews, and each crew has a specific crew name that they go by all week long. These crews are separated, usually 10 to 15 people, students and adults, and they're from all over, from all the different churches. We had about 200 there in Panama City overall, and so each crew was just mixed up with all those students, okay? So whenever I call off a crew name, that is what it means. So first off, I think we have the Lumber Rumblers, right? So we're going to start off with you guys. So that would be Drake and Sam. They were our first two. They were the only ones that didn't have one of our adults on their crew with them. So here you go. I don't know which is going first, if you want to pass the one mic or...
All right, so me and Sam, we had a crew of about 10 people, and we were a few of the only kids on there. We had mainly adults and old people there helping us too, so that was... So our project, we had to work in it was like a homeless place, almost like a homeless campus. So there was this coffee shop that these people owned, and behind it they had an entire campus full of buildings where they just like housed homeless people, and like every week like they gave them a affordable rent so they could come in and just like kind of like catch up on life. Like there wasn't much of a time. It was a nonprofit, and so there was a lot of work that needed to be done. So that was me and Sam's job, and we got there and we did quite a bit there. We didn't get as much as we wanted to get done, but there were a ton of projects. So we fixed up some of the parking lots, obviously, because of one picture. And Sam also got to have some fun in an outdoor bathroom, and we power washed the entire bathroom. That was really fun. It echoed, and Sam criticized my music taste. So, yeah, overall, it was a great week. We got a lot done still, and I don't know, I had a great time. It was really fun meeting Eric and getting to meet him more, because I've always met the other guys, and it was really nice meeting Eric and Chris more and getting to meet everyone, truly. It was a great time.
Yeah.
What did y'all do inside the homeless shelter to help? Did you clean, or did you move stuff, or paint?
We did some painting, and well, actually we did paint on the walls. We also painted some boards, and we did a bunch of different things. We took all the stuff out of a garage and sorted all of that out, took out some of the stuff that I didn't need, and we just did all sorts of things. Yeah, we had a lot of fun, and I'm not very good at speaking, so I'm going to hand it back to you.
What did you do if you have free time?
Well, our free time was mainly spent waiting in the shower line, because the guys only had 5 showers, and even though there were less guys than girls, we still had a lot of guys. So that was about an hour of our free time, and then the other half was probably naps before dinner. And then if we weren't napping, we were probably playing basketball or doing something, because they had a gymnasium where a bunch of us played, so that was fun. Other questions?
What time
Too early. Too early. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, breakfast was 6:45. I skipped that. Uh, yeah. Luckily, I don't eat breakfast, so that was.
Sometimes on World Changers, I know sometimes they bring you sack lunches, sometimes they send you somewhere to eat. Where did you guys eat lunch every day?
We ate on the site. We had a few different people from the church that we were staying at. They would come and bring us food and stuff. And then on the last day, one of our crew leaders' wife brought us some food too, and she stayed and did our little devotional with us because we had a devotional leader on each job site. She came and kind of sat with us through and just kind of talked with us a bunch. Anything else?
Did you guys get to share your testimony with anybody?
I didn't really think I got to share my testimony too much with people. I got to talk about like great things that have happened to me over the past few years and like how it's been awesome to be able to go on this opportunity and have this opportunity to go somewhere. We on the last day, a few of the homeless men that were there, they started talking with me, and they were just in shock that like we would give up our summer to come, like a week in our summer to come, help them out whenever we didn't get any gain out of it really besides spiritually. And so they were just so shocked by that, and that was a big blessing to see what they did, to see their reactions to it. They were just impressed. I'm a really good cleaner, so. Mom would disagree. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they had to move their cars every day for us, and sometimes they were unmotivated, and it took a while to get started, but it was good.
Was there any time that you had a spontaneous God incident out in the community or restaurant or Walmart or anything like that?
Robin will probably talk about her story when we were in Walmart, and we got blessed by this one guy that came up and talked to us, and she'll probably go in more in detail to that because that was her story. And also we always have the concert prayer there, and that was me and Sam enjoyed that. I think he enjoyed that. Do you have any moments, Sam?
I don't have any specific moments, but there was one guy that he had been there for a while, and he kind of like, I think he was staying there, but he also helped out around there, and he prayed with us. He was a really cool guy. I wanted to mention him. Do you remember his name?
I think his name was Lucas.
Yeah, it was Lucas.
He was like a 24-year-old preacher who just go whenever
Yeah.
God told him to. He would just like leave his family like whenever he told him to. And he was a great guy. He prayed over all the men with us and just kind of talked to us, and it was just really refreshing to see that.
Your mom might have been referring to the Chick-fil-A. On the Chick-fil-A where the lady outside.
Oh yeah. Well, the woman asked me. Well, she was like, "Oh, you guys have a really big crew, huh?" And I was talking about, yeah, we went on a mission trip, and it was just really cool because they were talking all about their church and about how it's so awesome that we're going out into the community and that we're, that we're doing it for God, and they were talking about some of their experiences at their church and how they volunteer, and it was really cool to see people just wrap around us and just talk about how good we're doing. That was really awesome. Any other questions?
So does the entire group of World Changers pick a location per year, like maybe someplace that had tornadoes, or is this?
I'll catch that one.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a question?
You said you work with adults and old people. I was wondering if you could clarify. Is Randy both? Is he an adult?
Next question. All right. I think I'm going to pass it back off to Aaron now.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, guys. They always tell me, they say, yeah, we just don't talk much, but they really do. And this was obviously not Drake's first year going. He's been with us since he could go, I guess, in middle school. And so that's many years. Just one, we missed the one because of COVID, I guess, is the only one. But this was Sam's first year going with us, so really proud of him, and hard worker, both of them. And so it was interesting. Drake makes it interesting. So, all right, yeah, we'll keep some of the stories to ourselves. But do watch the video. There's some good pictures up there. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
I asked if World Changers selects a particular location each year based on like maybe there was a natural disaster or anything, or maybe even unemployment was high in a particular area. Is that how they base where everybody goes?
Sometimes, yes. There's multiple locations throughout the summer. This year there was probably about 25 to 30 locations we could choose from. Each week there was 4 or 5 of them. Those are chosen for various reasons. It's not World Changers that typically chooses. What it is that the location, the local location, will apply, and then that in the application process they say, well, why do you need us to be there? And then they talk back and forth, and then they choose. However, some years, like after I can't remember which hurricane was it in Louisiana? Katrina. I think they were there multiple years with that. We're still seeing, I think it was Michael, right? Down there in Florida, Hurricane Michael. We were still seeing stuff from there. When Chris and I talk, you'll hear about some of the trees we were clearing out and stuff, and we were finding insulation and ceiling tiles and stuff that shouldn't be in shrubbery. And that was 4 years ago, I believe. So yes, they do. Just depends. Some of it's poverty. Some of it's not. Some of it's just the need for Christ. Like a 1% go to church or something, so you just never know. And the reason we go is just to do whatever they ask for of us, and just share gospel. So yes, actually, yeah.
My second one was in Von Terre. I lived in Illinois, and our World Changers was in Von Terre.
Yeah, we've had
It was on our street. We were newlyweds. And well, we worked at this place that used to be where they donate stuff.
the Ministerial Alliance.
We did the whole parking lot.
Yeah.
Black tar.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah.
That was so awesome to drive by and see World Changers.
I was just wondering, 'cause I was thinking that you're the homeless thing around here has just gone crazy.
Yeah. Yes, we've had multiple ones. I don't remember how many we had, but at least 6, 7, 8 years being here local in St. Francis County, Washington County, Iron County, this area. We went to one year up in Hannibal. We went to one in Kansas City. We were going to go to one in Columbia, but that was the year of COVID, and so it got closed down. Everything did. So yes. However, World Changers just restructured. They had some things happen, and they just restructured, and because of that restructuring, it just kind of started everything brand new. And so they're growing again, and who knows? We may try to get it back here again. I would love to, because it was a neat thing to see. All right. Well, I love the questions. Thank you, and just keep asking questions, because I was telling Bobby when we started doing this, you guys are going to get sick and tired of hearing the word World Changers, because I will talk about this all day, every day, and I love it. I think it's a great program. You guys will see as we continue talking more and more about how great it is and why it's so great. And so you guys are going to hear this over and over about World Changers, and when you're asking questions, I love to tell you about it. So if you have more questions you don't want to ask here, afterwards, ask questions, any of us in these gold shirts here, we'll be more than happy to tell what we know. All right. And if they make up, some of them might even make up answers for you. So who knows? All right. So next up, I believe it's the group called Square Feet. I think that's what it was. The Square Feet. We had 7 total go. You'll have 6 of us, or let's see. Yeah. 6 of us here tonight. One of them wasn't able to make it tonight, and he was on this crew here, the other one that wasn't able to make it. So, you know Miss Robin. This is Eric. You may have seen him around a little bit before, like at our concert and stuff, but they are going to tell you all about what they have. And I don't know if you've noticed the pictures up here, but we'll have the pictures kind of going through, and Robin and Eric are going to tell you. I think they have some things they'll be looking at. So,
So, in our group, we went to a homeless shelter that, like 10 or 15 years ago, they had a fire there, and we just had to get everything out of there, like the flooring and the ceiling. We had to break apart bunk beds and throw them in dumpsters. And I think we had about around 180 yards of trash and dumpsters. And what else? There was a balcony that we had some furniture and threw it out the balcony. It was like a 20-foot drop. Yeah. A lot of yard work that we had to do.
That's one of the dumpsters.
That's one of the
There'll be some
yeah.
on the slideshow, I think, showing. Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, lots of yard work, weed eaters and stuff. Yeah. I'll let Robin handle
You can
the
sit
rest.
up here, and if you think of something later, okay? I was going to give you a little bit of background on World Changers, because maybe some of you don't know, and we kind of take it secondhand. My kids, Tom and I have 3 children, and they're 26, 30, and 34, and all of them went to World Changers from the first get-go, 7th grade. They served every year, and they'd come back so pumped up and so excited over what happened. And the 2 boys, I could get that. They were outdoorsy boys and typical. When Maddie come along, I thought, yeah, she's a girly girl, you know, take the hair straightener, the makeup, the whole bit, pack 5 suitcases when you need to be there a week. So I wasn't sure how that would work, but she did the same thing. She come back so pumped up, and she loved every minute of it. So her senior year, which was 2014, she said, Mom, you've got to go. And I never did want to go before. I didn't want to be that mom that was there. I wanted them to do this on their own. So she said, you've got to go see what it's all about. So I did, and he's been stuck with me since 2014. But as we were going up that first day to get loaded up and leave out, I just told her, I said, Maddie, I just feel so, I don't have my purse, I don't have my tote that I carry to work all the time. I just feel, and she said, are you out of your comfort zone? And I said, yes. And she said, welcome to World Changers. So, and that's definitely it. We're sleeping on cots or air mattresses. We're standing in lines, getting a shower. You're putting me in a group of 200 people, and I'm not the social butterfly, so that's out of my comfort zone. But every year we come back, and it's such an experience. Just not only for us, I mean, you feel kind of selfish because you bring back so much more than you think you're going there to do. So we've had a pretty good, this guy right here, I tell you, for his first year, he is the first one to volunteer, first one to volunteer to say prayer, to volunteer to work, to give his testimony. He did awesome. And there's some pictures you'll see later, 2 older men showing him how to work a weed eater. It was all grown up, and they asked him, you know, who can weed eat? Eric raised his hand, first one, and they're like, do you even know how to weed eat? You know, they were judging, and he's like, yeah. So they gave him a little crash course, and this guy just took it from there. He worked so hard. He's so proud of him. We worked on a rescue mission shelter, and the gentleman that was overseeing that, he had he was like a CEO of a large company, and he had retired. He said he realized he was chasing the money, and that's not what his life was about. His name is Steve, Mr. Steve. So he came down to Florida, and he started working with homeless shelters and rescue missions and renovating those and getting a lot of grants and things to go together. And the particular place that we worked at was an eye-opener for us. It was a homeless shelter that had been abandoned. Everything was left in there. The kids got a talking to before we went in. We had to wear masks, goggles, gloves, you know, and you don't know what you're going to find. And as obvious, we found things we wish we hadn't, but it was signs the world had been there. There was also Bibles that we found. So the Word had tried to get in too, but the world was still there too. They had to totally demolish it. We filled up 6 or 7 industrial dumpsters and didn't even get to the bottom basement of the building. So there was a lot of nasty stuff. When they was tearing down ceilings, they found drugs concealed up there, syringes, different things. So it was a good teaching moment for everybody to just realize it's out there. But it was one of the jobs we didn't get to see completed, which normally you'll go in and paint a house or you'll put windows in, you'll get to see it completed. This one wasn't. So one day, Mr. Steve took us to a women and children's shelter that had just been renovated. And he wanted to show us the end result and what people did there. Because he said, you're not going to finish this, but I want you to see where it's headed. And our particular site is going to be turned into a homeless shelter for veterans. So that was a good thing. The shelter we went to, all the women are required to work. They have schooling. They have a lot of programs that they're involved in. And the lady that talked to us there, she had just recently been promoted into the administrative assistant. She's a 20-year addict. She'd been clean for 7 months. She was just starting to get to reunify with her children. So her name was Dara. So that was pretty cool to kind of see what it's going to be. It was hot. It was hard work. World Changers, I never understood when my kids went, how come they never called home, or, you know, what was such a long day. But in the past, up until this year, your days start, breakfast is at 6. You're out the door by 7:30 heading to your job site. You don't get to come in until around 4:30. Then you're standing in a line to get a shower. Supper's at 6. You have worship service, you have meetings, you have devotion time, and then you're in your room by 10. So it's a long day. It's never been a World Changers trip without a trip to Walmart. You got to go to Walmart no matter where you go, right? So we had to go to Walmart. I was looking for one of these wraps that you wet and put around your neck. And I looked in the pool department, I looked in the garden, the seasonal, couldn't find it. So I asked somebody, and they said, oh, I think you go down to aisle G23. I think that was so I'm like, okay. So I'm going down there, and it runs out. There is no G23. I'm at the end of the aisle. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it runs this way. It wasn't. So then I head back, and I think maybe it's over outside in the garden center. Maybe that's what they meant. So as I'm heading out there, this older gentleman, he came up to me, he said, can I ask you a question? I said, well, sure. And he said, do you believe in God? And this was before we started our week. And I said, well, yes, I do. And as a matter of fact, we're down here with about 200 on a mission trip. And he just, I was telling him what we do, and he just smiled, and he thanked us for taking the time and investing. And then he said, let me tell you my mission. He said, I take children to Shriners Hospital for medical treatments. And I'll probably get, he said, I've been to one site 350 times, and one was over 200 and something. And he said, that's where God's placed my heart. That's my mission that he's given me. And he asked how many people was in our group, and he said, I want to give you a little red heart. Just a reminder to go where God places your heart. And don't be afraid to speak his name. So that's how we kicked off our week. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah. You want to talk some more?
While we had lunch, we would share our testimonies, and a lot of people shared their testimonies, even I. And Steve, the person, he would give us something. he would talk about just every day. And one time, this is one day, right? But our group leader, John, said, why don't we get some ice cream? We had a long day at work. And he said, does everyone have their wallets on you? Most of us said no, and most of us said yes. So Steve was talking, and he said 10% of what you should give to God and give back. And he gave us $100 for ice cream, so I thought it was very nice of him. And Florida, of course, it rains a lot, so sometimes the rain would get in our way of working.
When's
No, I haven't, but I definitely prayed a lot that day. And yeah, they had it set up on like a big screen TV where you could read it, and everyone was quiet so they could pray. Yeah.
When Mr. Steve came in, he would do a devotion with the kids every time. We had devotion time on site every day, but he would always come in and give his side too. When he handed that $100, he was asking the kids some questions, and whoever answered it, whoever answered the most, they would get the money. But he talked about the 10% and the tithing, and he had a sign in his office at that rescue mission about the 100 Club. And somebody asked him about that. So he said that was just a reminder to him, of God's word to give, and it's always going to come back to you. And he said, I always carry $100 in my billfold, just as a reminder to me. And he handed that to them to go get ice cream. And then when we get to the ice cream shop, out of all the ice cream shops in Florida, they said, are you with the World Changers group? And they only charge us half. So it came back immediately, so that was a pretty neat thing just to hear his testimony and how he had chased after the wrong things for so many years. Normally when we're at a World Changers site, we can go out and evangelize in the community. We weren't really at a situation we could do that, but a lot of what we heard was internally. Our crew chief, he just talked of his testimony, and he got his real estate license about the time everything crashed in 2008 and all these setbacks that he had. And he went to Honduras, and he built a farm up, and he got it operational, and just a lot of things that he had done in his life without the support of his church. They said, we'll pray for you, but we're not going to support this. And he did it anyway, because that was his calling. Fallon, who was on our crew, she had a couple tattoos someone asked her about, and she gave her testimony about they were in memory of her best friend who was murdered. I mean, sometimes you think you're going to go and you're going to hear the outside worlds, but sometimes it's internally you need to hear from the crews that you're working with. So it was a really, really good week. And we had a Clifford on our crew. You'll see some pictures later. He was a young man too. I think after the first day decided he was going to be over the outside crew with weed eating and everything. So he just pretty much took that under his wing, and next thing you know, he's got 4 or 5 guys working with him, and they didn't have to tell him. He just went out. He come in one day at lunch and told John, our crew chief, he said, hey, this weed eater, we don't have new blades, and it's getting kind of dull. He said, I just took it all apart, and I sharpened them, and I put it all back together. And they're like, you did what? And he said, well, it needed done. And they're like, well, you got to make sure there's some give in those blades. They'll crack when you do it. And he said, oh, I did. And he was sitting there. So probably by the time that's Clifford. Probably by the time he's 18, he'll have his own business somewhere. He was a pretty cool kid. I guess, anything else? The concert of prayer that Bonnie asked about, it's just amazing. You go in silence, and they will say, there's a speaker, and they'll have some talking, and they'll say things that you need to pray about, and you'll break up and you'll pray on that, and then they'll have a couple worship songs, and then they'll go on the screen, and they'll note some other things that you pray about. It's a real calm, solemn evening, but it is so uplifting. it's just really a cool time. Okay, that guy in the middle there, that's John. He was our crew chief. The last day, he had a ball of string, and he took it and he said, I want everybody to say something good about somebody here that they've seen all week in our crew. We had 31 on my crew. I've never had that many on the crew. But, so he took the ball and he said something good, and he would throw it to that person. Then they had to say something good about someone else and throw it to them, and built a web, and he said, we're all connected by this week. And I thought that was so cool. He was a very caring and emotional guy. He said, we're all connected by what we've done and what we've seen. And then he had us clip it and said, make you a bracelet out of it. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Near the side of the building, we were throwing stuff out the balcony. There was a courtyard that we had to get some grass out of there. And there was this one stone tablet. I couldn't read it, but once the grass we cut, it was the 10 Commandments in the ground. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
We had a lot of hard-working kids that week.
All right, well, thank you guys. Yeah, Miss Robin has been with me for many years now, and I'm not stuck with her. I want her to go every year because she does a fantastic job, and I really appreciate everything that she does. The next crew is my crew and Miss Chris. We didn't have any of our students on our crew. It was just the two of us adults here. And you hear the word about crew chief. You've heard that word multiple times. The crew chief is kind of the person in charge of that crew who they know about the job. They were the ones that find out, the materials and how to use the tools, and they teach the kids. And so Miss Chris was actually she was our crew chief for the week, and she's done that many times in the past. She's from First Baptist Bonne Terre, and they have went to World Changers I don't know how many times in the past. So she knew a lot of the stuff, and so I was really glad to have her. But I'll turn it over to her, and she'll be able to tell us about what our crew was about and everything, and the work that we did, and then I'll fill in after that.
Okay, well, our job, our mission for the week was to paint a church. And it's a self-sufficient church. It's in a very low-income family, a very low-income neighborhood. And so the congregation doesn't make donations. So they live off of donations. And one thing that they did is they've made, was it 32,000? They had fish fries. This guy is notorious, 4 states around him, for having fish fries. So people would drive knowing when they were going to have his fish fries. And so that's how he had made all of the money so far to get this church and to get it off the ground. But it all didn't come at one time. They also had a tent outside because it's hot in the summertime. So every now and then the winds would come up, and I think about 4 times within a year, it would blow this tent 2 blocks down the road, and it would always end up in an air conditioning unit place. So about the 4th time, the preacher and a couple guys, they went down there to fold this tent up, and load it up and bring it back and set it back up. The guy that ran the place came out and he said, look, I'm tired of this ending up in my yard, in our lot. He said, why do you have a tent out anyways? And he said, well, it's hot in our church building and we don't have no AC, so we worship outside. And he said, well, I've got a used air conditioning unit. And he said, I'll be up tomorrow to put that thing in. So it is a very good one. And so God works in mysterious ways. He can use a tent and blow it down in somebody's lot. So, I mean, there were so many amazing things that had happened that week. This pastor and his wife is also a certified counselor. So people would come in, they might be not know how to get the welfare or how to get some help financially or so she would counsel with them, and she would help get them the help, or at least get them the guidance that they needed. They also had a shed outside that donations, people would just drive up and unload their car the whole time we're painting this church. They would just start unloading their car with donations and things, and so it was really just awesome to watch this. But our particular building was in the shape of a clover. It was the only building that we seen in where we were at. It was all round, and there was 4 round circles, if you can see. And it has no windows on the outside. So we asked, what was this building before? And they said it actually was a church at one time, and it is built for the hurricanes. So when the winds come, the winds just bounce off of it. So it was kind of neat to learn the history. And when we first pulled up, the shrubbery around this church, around 3 sides of this church, it was like 12 foot tall. And that was one of our missions, not only to paint this building, but also to cut these large shrubs down. So we only had a pair of clippers. That's what we started with for about 2 days. And then the 3rd day, they got us a little like mini chainsaw thing. And so battery operated, of course, so you can only work so long. But the boys were able to get that down, and us girls, we kept painting. We were dealing with the flu. There was 2 and 3, every day that had the flu. So we had a skeleton crew many, many days. And then we were also battling the rain. As Eric said, the rains came every day. But it was so neat just to keep working and just to be blessed. As we were working, we noticed that people were driving by and honking. So, you just turn around and just wave and not realize it. So we kind of mentioned it to the Tammy. She is the female pastor, or the pastor's wife. But she said, they're honking because you guys are working, because they see somebody working on this building. So it was kind of neat. And then the very last day, when we first went to the building, there was a cross laying on the ground. It was probably 20 foot long, and it was old, and it was metal, so it was extremely heavy, and it was rusty, and it had been blown over for a few years and just never stood back up. So we were able to shove some rocks under it and get 3 sides painted, and actually all of them would work together, and they were able to flip this huge heavy. It was solid metal. It was extremely heavy. They were able to flip it over, get the other side painted. So on our very last day, like an hour and a half, I didn't think we were going to get to see it put up, but God showed up, and he showed off, and it was hilarious. But they were able to, they tried to manhandle it. About 5 or 6 of them, tried to lift it up. Well, they could only get so high, and then it was ready to come down. So after about the 2nd time of them trying, I had noticed they had been working on a little mini mall right next to it. So I asked them if I could have their permission to go ask that guy if he'd bring over the skidster. So we did. I ran over there and I said, hey, we're World Changers. We're a mission group. He said, I've been watching you guys work all week. He said, you're doing that for free? And I said, yes. I said, is there any way that you could come and help us get this cross just stood up? And he said, yes. He goes, I would love to be a part of what you guys is doing. So he actually got a laborer, and he's in the bucket, and they were able to push this cross. We already had a hoe dug, and the concrete was laying there. So as he got it stood up, we were able to put some braces on it and get the concrete in it. And they took the concrete braces off the next day. They had sent us some pictures, so it was kind of neat just to watch everybody watching us. And we went there to bless them, but I'm telling you, we're the ones that get the blessings. I mean, we were blessed in so many ways throughout the week. So thank you very much for everything you guys contributed.
And something that the pastor and we were talking on the last day as well, And he was telling me, he said that this is a relatively new church. I think they just got the building in November or something like that. It was late in last year. And they had so much work to do, and they just didn't know how they were going to do it because, as she said, they didn't even collect an offering because their people just didn't have anything to give, really. And so they were, doing the fish fries and raising all this money because they gave out, I don't know how much they gave back to the community. It was pretty amazing. But he said, we just didn't know what we needed it painted. We needed this done. We needed that done. Those shrubs, getting those down so that people could see that it was actually a church, all this stuff. And they didn't know how they were going to get all that done. And then someone came and said, hey, we're with World Changers. Could you guys use some help? And they said that was just a godsend. And then here we came and was able to do it for them. And it was just an amazing thing. Yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time. So that's our crew. And do you guys have anything on that one? Any questions? Here. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it was a large job. It was a big job. And we got to look and think, man, we have a lot to do. How are we going to do it? And then they said, hey, it was one of those days when, it's kind of rain day and the dumpsters didn't come in like they were supposed to and like we thought they were supposed to. And they said, hey, could you use about 31 people over there to help you out? And here came Robin and Eric's crew, and they hit that and just started painting, and just really helped us move on around that place. And definitely, God provided there because I don't know if we could have got it done with like she said, we had so much sickness in ours and, kids staying back because they just couldn't get up, all this kind of stuff. And so we just didn't know what we were going to do. And then here they came and they just, when you have 30 people with paintbrushes, it moves quite fast. So yes, they were able to help us. So yeah, you might see them in some of our pictures. They came that day, and then the next day they went back to theirs, and I guess the dumpsters were ready the next day. So, again, God kind of knew what he was doing, right? And so that was great. Anything else? All right, well, I guess we're good on that. I guess I'll, yep. Our theme for the week, you see our golden shirts, kind of the retro feel here. Our theme was free. That was the theme for the week, was free. And it all came out of Galatians. And in particular, Galatians chapter 3, verse 28 says, there is no Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And this was a different World Changers for me because we didn't work, at least none of our people worked on any homes. We didn't have any homeowners. We didn't have neighborhoods like, Robin was talking about, where we go and visit. Chris kept saying, man, can we go out and visit? And it's like, there's nobody to visit because it's all like businesses around us. So, this was different, but every single one of our crews worked with ministries. They worked with organizations that gave back to the community, homeless shelters, veterans homes. Our church, they just, they do every weekend they had something going, health fairs or clothes closets or food pantries or you name it, they were having it because they had a love for their community. And it didn't matter who they were, where they came from, anything like that. So, when it's talking about we are all one in Christ Jesus, that really hit home this during this week because that's exactly what it was. It didn't matter if we were from Missouri or Florida or Georgia or Oklahoma or wherever we were from, we were all there for that one purpose. And so, when it says that, it's real. You saw some pictures maybe of up here earlier, and Robin, I don't think she mentioned it. I thought she was going to mention it. And you'll see it in our video too. But there's a picture of a syringe. Did you mention that? Okay. Sorry. I was probably talking or probably. But, there's a picture of a syringe, then the next picture is a Bible. We were encroaching on Satan's turf. We really were. And you knew he didn't like it, but his territory was being encroached with hope, peace, love, and just the gospel of Jesus Christ. And, you know, that right there is just an amazing thing. We had 7 go with us this year. And next year, if you know of any youth, 6th grade and up, that have finished 6th grade and up, this is an associational thing. You're going to hear a lot about it because I'm here. But if you have anybody that's that age in our association, you know, just be paying attention to what we're, when the announcements are happening, because we'll be starting again soon, believe it or not. It's about a year-round thing. But I would encourage anybody, because as you can see from these students, it's a life-changing, not only for the ones we go and visit, but also for us as well. And so I definitely want to invite anybody and everybody that is that age group to come and join us, because it is well worthwhile. Something else I want to do before we finish up tonight is I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to so many people. I mean, the churches. This church right here, Providence, you guys, when we started this, you know, I was relatively new here. And here I am saying, world changers, world changers, world changers. And you guys were like, okay, let's do it, you know. And you were just so supportive in every single way, you know. And you didn't know some of the kids, you didn't know some of the people. And yet you're like, let's do this. Let's love on them and send them out and, you know, go love on other people. And so thank you to our church right here. Thank you so much. We want to say thank you to First Baptist Bonne Terre. They were a great help as well, because they let us borrow their van and take care of the fuel costs. And, you know, it was just, God blessed us through First Baptist Bonne Terre. So, you know, we want to say definitely thank you to them. Some of you guys came over to Bismarck when we had our barbecue. Mike's Market there in Bismarck, and Harold's Market up in Imperial, which we might know somebody there. But we want to say a great big huge thank you to them, because that barbecue really, God again blessed us financially through that, and they were a big part of that. So thank you to them. Granny Barb's Pies, a lot of you guys came over, and here's the secret: there's going to be some of those over there afterwards, so you might want to stick around for some of those. But thank you to them as well, because they helped us with that fundraiser over there, and so they were fantastic. The cookbooks, you know, we had so many people that provided, you know, recipes for the cookbooks and helped us get the cookbooks out there and everything. But there were different businesses that did this. The chiropractor there in Bismarck, Lynn Brown, she put them out there and just selling like hotcakes there. The Unico Bank in Bismarck, Robin said, hey, can we put some out? And she keeps coming back and say, hey, you have any more books? Because need more there. And Lady Queen does the same thing. They'll call me up and they'll say, hey, do you have any more books? And I said, sure, you know. And so they've sold tons of books for us, so we really appreciate that. And here's another, I'd call it a God thing for sure. I met a man back early 2000s when I went to Natchez, Mississippi with a church from Perryville that I was working with. I was the youth pastor at a church outside of Perryville. It wasn't even in Perryville, tiny church. We went down to Natchez, Mississippi, and there was our group leader, our leader there was Larry Williams. All right. And all kinds of crazy things happened that week. The school backed out on us like the week before, and lightning hit the building and knocked out the power, and all this crazy stuff happened. And Larry was he was a champ, right? A few years later, when I was with Bismarck, we went to Wyoming, to Casper, Wyoming. Well, Larry was our project coordinator there. Fantastic guy, you know. I've met him a few other times at some meetings here and there and everything. And so, as I was posting things about our trip, he contacted me and said, hey, you're coming this direction, right? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he said, well, you better not pass us up. You stop and visit with me when you're coming through. He was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And so I said, sure thing. And so we stopped in Tuscaloosa on the way home, and he took our whole group out to lunch. And it was just such the neatest thing. And he got to visit and talk about it, you know, about everything. And World Changers, he just loves World Changers. Plus, he also, when we were selling cookbooks, he ordered 5 of them and had them shipped down there. But this man, he was just such a blessing to us. And so we really appreciate him as well. So Brother Bobby, you in the church, before we left, you had a commissioning service and prayed over us and just commissioned us to go out and share the gospel of Jesus Christ, the love of Jesus Christ. And I want to tell you and the church that was done. This group right here did what you as a church asked of us. And I'm very proud of them. And the things that God was doing through them, the growth I saw, the excitement that I saw for the work, even though it was hard and it was hot, and typical teenagers don't do that kind of thing, but they stuck through it and just loved on people. And again, so these ministries and these organizations can love on thousands and thousands of more people after this. So church, thank you guys, and I want to just say that they did what was asked, so we appreciate it. All right, well, to end it off, we have a video that we put together that just has a bunch of pictures, and you'll see some, before we start it real quick, something else that nobody mentioned was the fun stuff we did, the crazy stuff we did, because a lot of our stuff was focused on the work we did in the ministry that we did. But we got to have some off time too. Somebody asked about a free time, and we got to go to the beach, of course, and stuff. So you'll see a bunch of that in the video, but here we go, and then Brother Bobby, I'll turn it over to you.